Listening to that, Lord Timothy Kirkhope, former UK Immigration Minister, former leader of the Conservatives in the European Parliament. Thank you very much for coming on. Can I call you Timothy? Is that all right?
Yeah, please.
Thank you. Yeah. Again, the agreement sees a massive amount of money going, almost a doubling of the amount of money going to pay for new patrols in this new detention centre. Do you think that's the right call?
Well, I think we have to obviously come to an arrangement with the French, because clearly that is, the country nearest to us where this problem is arising from, directly to us. But of course, the issue here is a little wider than that. And I did notice that the President, and it's been referred to by other contributors, said that the agreement, we need a broader agreement now between the UK and the EU. I was involved in drafting the Dublin agreements, which were the regulations that arranged for people to be returned to other European countries within the EU if they came, illicitly elsewhere. And I was also very keen to see that developed. And I think what we're going to see now, the interesting bit is that we've now got to do a deal not only with the French, but also with the EU. And of course, our EU retained regulations bill that we're presently looking at in the House of Lords now, if we actually dump everything on and burn everything, all these regulations at the end of this year, which is what the government are proposing, the irony is that we will get rid of the mechanisms, the very mechanisms we need in EU law to actually do a deal with the EU and restore some kind of sense into this whole situation.
Is this then what Macron is proposing to do when it comes to EU-wide renegotiate or negotiation, is to basically renegotiate the Dublin regulation that you helped draft, because it has been fraying, hasn't it, that agreement?
Not only fraying, it's one of my greatest disasters as a politician, I have to admit. I've been involved in drafting at least two of these Dublin things when I was in the European Parliament, and both of them sounded brilliant. Everybody cheered and were lovely. It was great. We're all going to work together now. We're all going to look after it, share the burdens that, this all gives us in Italy and Greece. And what happened? Well, we all went back to our national sort of identities, and the thing fell apart. So I'm afraid, you're talking, Tom, to, I'm afraid, a political failure in that regard. And I'm very sad about that. So if we can get a new deal that is actually not only EU, but also involves the UK as well, about all these people that are moving throughout Europe and including into the UK, then that would be absolutely brilliant. But we've got to make sure we don't throw away the mechanisms that we're thinking of doing at the moment that would allow us to achieve something rather better than I could ever achieve.
What would you then want to see done, finally, Lord Kirkhope, to stop the sort of the nationalism that you described undermining the Dublin regulation many times? What would you do to try and stop that from happening this time?
Well, I think the only way it can be done, frankly, is if there is real fairness in the way in which we are dealing between countries. I think the problem we've got right now is that the nationalism, the populism, the inevitability of that in those who are elected means that we have great difficulty, as we did with Dublin, to get that agreement. But I'm very pleased, I'm positive about what is happening with Sunak and Macron. That is a good start. But inevitably, we cannot do a bilateral deal on its own. We have to now work on a broader canvas. And that's something Macron can arrange. But we've got to be part of it.
If nothing else, Lord Kirkhope, it's very refreshing to hear a politician admit to their mistakes. So thank you very much indeed for coming on. Lord Timothy Kirkhope, former UK Immigration Minister, former leader of the Conservatives in